it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some books I think would make a really interesting A24 movie. So I own 2 of the books on this list, but I am feeling lazy and I really just don't want to hold up just 2 books for this video, so I'm just going to use all digital ones. If you like this kind of videos from me and want to see more, you know the usual, follow, subscribe, like, comment, and let's get in the video. Okay, so I got a couple. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books that I think would probably make a really interesting A24 movie. Some of them are horror, some of them are like romance, some of them are a little more like coming of age, and I think it kind of fits. So before I can do this, I'm going to describe what A24 movies actually are. A24 movies is like a movie distributor. They're indie. They're very known for their more elevated horror. Yeah, for their elevated horror, but they have dipped their toes into non-horror aspects, such as The Materialist, which just came out, and then Everything Everywhere All at Once, to name a few. But you probably know them more for The Heretic that came out last year. Hereditary is a big one. Midsummer is another one. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. A lot of the movies they do tell really focus on a very humanist storytelling approach. All the characters are very flawed. They feel like realized characters before the movie ever started. They feel like they had a start before the movie and an end of following life after the movie. Their stories also tend to focus on a lot of grief and trauma as like a point to move the story across. We see that a lot in Hereditary and Midsummer, where grief is a very big part of the movie. We also see that trauma as well in Everything Everywhere All at Once, the trauma of immigration and moving and being on your own. A lot of people will tell you that A24 movies are not for everyone, and that is very true. I don't want to say it has to be an acquired taste, but I will, like, it's not an acquired taste. You don't have to have like a certain like IQ level, but I definitely do think if you like more of like an artsy symbolism kind of movie, you'll probably enjoy an A24 movie. And lastly, all of them have a very like dream-like or nightmarish quality to the movies. Starting off with the first book. The first one's The Diviners. I'm finally reading through the series. I've only read the 2 books so far, and I finally was like, you know what, screw it, I'll just read the audiobooks, and I'm on the 3rd book now. But this is a YA horror following young Evie O'Neill, who has recently been kicked out of her home in Oklahoma after she caused a scandal, which we'll talk about more later. She moves to New York to live with her Uncle Will in his creepy crawly museum. And here we learn that the reason why Evie got kicked out of her home and is pushed to New York is because she kind of caused a scandal. She has an ability where she can touch someone's, like any person's like item, and she can read the past, like their past events or their like anything that happened with this item in tow, basically. And she got herself in trouble doing so. So now she's living her best life in New York. However, there seems to be a string of murders happening that doesn't really seem human in nature. And this was also set in 1920s. I don't know if I mentioned that. Moving on to why I think it'd be a good A24 movie, and that is because this one has a very nightmarish quality to it. Even though there's a lot of like build up to the horror, a lot of the kills in this first one are very scary, very frightening, and just scream like out of this world. Like, obviously out of this world is paranormal, but still. But I feel like it's an extra nightmarish quality, especially since this is a YA novel, and I wouldn't expect YA novels to really dive deep into this too deep into this horror, but it is gruesome, it is frightening. Like, the first book kind of still scares me to this day, and I've read that book like 3 or 4 times by now. Especially when I'm listening to the audiobook, and the narrator for all, I'm assuming 4 books, is just absolutely amazing. Their ability to shift their voice and change it and manipulate it is frightening, and I get really creeped out, especially when I get to the very creepy, scary parts. And I think this also does a lot with trauma and grief. We learn that Evie's brother has passed in the war, and she is kind of acting out because she doesn't really know how to get over her brother's death. So we see her kind of really grapple with this, and we see it further along with the other characters as the books progress, and we learn more about them and their details and exactly what happened to lead them up to here. The next one is The Deep. The Deep is a novella by River Solomon, and it's basically, I forgot the character's name, but it follows this group of like mermaids who are descended from the African slaves that were dragged along the passage and either were thrown off the ship. The one that we're following particularly is one who is known as like the memories keeper. I forget what the official name is, but she's in charge of holding all of these memories, all of this trauma, before, like, I think once a year, once every couple of years, she then shares it with the rest of the group, and then everyone can go back to normal. This for sure deals a lot with trauma and grief. I think I would have liked this more not as a novella, just because I had issues with the world building of it all, and I thought it was going to be a completely different book than it actually was. I think this also does have that kind of nightmarish, dreamlike quality to it, but it, like I said, it does deal with a lot of grief and what it means to be the one to hold all of these memories. It's such a traumatic instance for a lot of them and a lot of their ancestors. I also think there's a weird, almost dreamlike quality to it because of the very non-human aspect that we see. Again, was not the book for me, but I think it would still make a really good A24 movie or short film distributed by A24. But I feel like I would have enjoyed it more had it been just a little long, not been a novella. The next one is A Dowy of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a retelling of the Dracula myth, following one of Dracula's wives as she kind of learns, as she becomes a vampire, as he introduces more of the wives and spouses into their life, and as she kind of learns this relationship is not only unhealthy, but it's becoming increasingly dangerous with how unstable Dracula is getting. It's written mainly in kind of like a letter format almost, but not fully letter format. It's I guess more diary entries referring to Dracula. It's a very human-like writing style despite the character being very non-human. And I think it's a very introspective novel, just really breaking down toxic relationships and how the struggle it is to get out of them, etc., etc. You really get to watch the protagonist as she, not tumble, I say, but starts to unravel the exact danger that she's in with Dracula, and really grapples with whether or not she wants to continue this relationship and put herself in danger, or if she is ready to put the relationship away and do what it takes to keep herself safe. Keep herself and the spouses safe. The next one is The Monstrous Mrs Mai by Van Huang. This is an adult horror novel following Mai, who is wanting to be a seamstress. She wants to be able to sell her clothes and become a designer. Her parents aren't very appreciative or accepting of this fact, since it's 1960s in San Francisco. So she moves out and ends up rooming with 3 other Mais. Like, their middle names are Mai, and all 4 of them are given an opportunity to get everything that they wanted, as long as they do black magic. And we kind of see these characters as they like lose themselves to the desperation of wanting the life they wanted, and on top of that, also seeing how far they'll take, or how far they're willing to go to get their dreams, and the inevitable consequences of said thing. Yeah, like I said, this one really follows what happens when you do things without thinking of the consequences, and the consequences that happen because of the things you're doing. It follows the 4 girls as they dig deeper into dark magic to make their dreams come true, and it's really almost like unsettling devolution to see these girls become so desperate to want the things in life that they are willing to sacrifice their humanity at some point in the book, as well as even their own lives, to be able to get what they wanted. The next one is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This is an adult, it's romance, but it kind of teeters on the line of lit fic, following Reagan and Aldo, who meet at the Chicago Art Institute. For Reagan, she's unpredictable, she doesn't like tedium, she is very chaotic, and she's trying to find a way to really just... And Aldo, who finds the world extremely chaotic and tries to find a way to kind of calm everything down and make it within his control. I put this in because of The Materialist. I feel like this is a very like realistic depiction of a romance. Not realistic, but a more human depiction of romance, where it's not all butterflies and sunshine and everything, but it really shows the flaws that these two individuals have, and what they're willing to do to overcome these flaws, to be a couple together, and how their mismatching personalities really work. As close to a human approach to a love story that you're gonna get in a romantic setting, and I really enjoyed seeing that very like human take on like how these 2 individuals really come together with their romance, and how they take care of each other, and how they balance their flaws, their little quirks, their mental health, etc. The next one is This One's For You by Kate Sweens. It's a YA coming-of-age novel following Cass and Sid, who were two very close friends at some point, and then they became not very best friends. Cass has really been grappling with the fact that his mother has passed away and she was part of a band. He's trying to connect with her any way that he can, but finds that his father doesn't want him to do anything with music and has really set him up for a career in engineering. Sid kind of follows the beat of her own drum, and her parents want her to do more than be a historical musical major, I think is the term that they used. During their last summer together before the senior year, after their senior year, the two of them embark on this road trip to find Cass's mom's band and have him try to connect with that. Again, another topic of grief and trauma. We really kind of see how Cass has not been coping of his mother's death and how his father hasn't been coping of his mother's death, and how he's trying to make sense of the world and make sense of the world where his mom is gone. We see him try to connect himself through music and find a really strong connection to his mother, only for his father to say, no, it's dangerous, it's not good for you, it's not going to take you anywhere, due to his wife's death. I think it's a very human story of how young adults really try to connect themselves with their parents in any which way, and how grief really takes away a piece of their identity that they really need to shape, and how losing a parent causes so much grief that really makes them struggle to shape their identity as they're kind of growing into their own. The last one is We Were Villains. This is an adult murder mystery novel following a cohort of graduate students who are known for their Shakespearean plays. Like they speak, live, breathe Shakespeare. They reference Shakespeare to an odd amount. They reference their own personalities to Shakespeare. However, we're following the book 10 years later as one of the members of the cohort is retelling what happened that fateful senior year to cause one of their members to have been brutally murdered. This is about as A24 as it gets, I feel. There's an artsy-fartsy element to it that really is like, this is not for you. Like, if you don't do Shakespeare in the slightest, if you don't enjoy it or read it or have consumed some kind of media about it, you probably will not enjoy it. I struggled. Granted, I haven't read all of Shakespeare's works, so that's probably why, but I still struggled. And I studied Shakespeare extensively through high school and college because literary canon. And because of this kind of what we learn about the book and what we learn about the characters, even at the very end of the book, it still feels very unreliable. We don't know if the narrator is telling the full truth, if he's skipping things, or if he's even misremembering, as this is nearly a decade after what actually happened. And we don't know if he's very reliable in his storytelling, and it just feels very A24 with the very human, with the characters, the artsy-fartsy-ness of it all, and the kind of mystery and unreliability that I feel like A24 really loves leaning into with their main characters. But that is it for my books I think would make a good A24 movie. If you like this video, again, hit like, subscribe, and comment. If you have any other books that you think would would make a nice A24 movie, also let me know, because I am a big A24 lover and will always enjoy a book that is wrecked because it reminds them of an A24 movie. But until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!